We see a lot of audience joining in. We'll just give a minute and we'll start the webinar. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining in. Once again, this is Sean Rajaputra, your host for today's webinar. This is our fifth webinar in the series of Hybris that we have been hosting over some time, right from ranging from how Hybris can be a game changer in your architecture, then to SAP integration with your Hybris using a REST-based design approach, and then to Hybris platform architecture and its building blocks. And then our earlier webinar was on how to customize Hybris and how can you implement a custom promotion rule. Now, in today's webinar, we are going to talk about the channel capabilities and content management. We have our speaker, Ravi Paul, who is our practice head for digital commerce and marketing practice. Ravi, back to you.
Thank you, Sean, and good morning, everyone. So as Sean was talking about that, today we are going to talk about the channel capabilities and the content management aspect of the Hybris. And this is the follow-up of our last webinar, which was all around that what is SAP architecture, SAP Hybris architecture is, and what constitutes its building blocks. And we provided all the different tiers of that architecture in that webinar. So following that, I will be bringing in all the different tiers and then have the very deep, detailed explanation about what those tiers are, how they can be used, how that actually affects your business, and then we go from there. So having said that, let me just start it.
Sure. So all the audience, if you have any questions, just a minute, Ravi, if you don't mind. All the audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to paste them on the questions tab on your right-hand side, and we'll answer them towards last 10 minutes during the Q&A session. Thanks, Ravi.
So as I said, we are going to talk about today omni-channel and content capabilities of SAP Hybris. So three things will be takeaway, after the end of this webinar. You will be able to have a fairly good idea about what the omni-channel is and what are the content capabilities. Like you must have heard the word WCMS of SAP Hybris, which is Web Content Management System. So I'm going to talk about WCMS within the envelope or the definition of content capabilities, and we'll also give you a bit of that, how we can use it. And since the using will be more like how to write the source code and how to create those components for WCMS, and we will we have already created a few custom components which will be available on the blog, and we can send it across to your email. So let's get started. So my brief introduction, being in the industry, leading design and delivering the B2C and B2B omni-channel solutions for retail, CPG, insurance, financials, healthcare, and media and entertainment industry. I'm running a Midwest group, and you can go and join that group if you're around, and we can see you guys sometime in October. You can reach out to me at my email address, rpal@prospergroup.com, if I have any questions about this webinar or any webinar which I ran in the past. So again, omni-channel WCMS, how to use it is our today's perspective. So let's get started with what is omni-channel is. So a simple definition of omni-channel is that ability to provide value to the customer of any interaction that customer has with you and drive the value of out of that interaction. You know, we have heard about many different definition of omni-channel, and so what it means to is all about the value creation and value driving out of that interaction. Because if suppose we cannot provide a customer the value of that interaction, the omni-channel meaning does not complete the vision of what the business and the customer looks out of that particular ability of the omni-channel. So I will just walk you through some of this so that you can have a better understanding what I'm talking about. So take an example, today.
Just a quick note, Ravi, if you don't mind. So customers are not able to see your next slide. Can you just refresh? They are still on the first slide.
That would be more latency issue. Yeah. Sorry about that. How is it now, Sean?
Still the same. We see channel capabilities and content management. The very first slide.
Sean, how about now?
No, Ravi, it's still the same.
No?
No.
Is it just you, Sean, or everybody else?
No, I think everybody else.
Everybody else.
Yep. Everybody is okay. I don't know what.
Can you take the animation off from the PowerPoint? Can do that. Okay.
So let me reconnect, okay? Let me see if that helps, okay, Sean? Sorry for this technical glitch, okay? Let me just reconnect and see if that helps.
Yep. We apologize for the inconvenience. We'll be right back.
Hey, Sean, can you make me the presenter?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, Sean, can you validate it?
Yeah, it's fine now. Yeah, all the attendees, we sincerely apologize for the glitch. Thank you.
Appreciate it. So coming back to omnichannel, so today in any shopping experience, a customer used to use many devices, so from the desktop to mobile phone to smart devices. So this basically creates a lot of proliferation of the information and the segmentation of the information. So what it describes is that we, when start looking into an omni-channel solution, we want to ensure that the customer experience remains consistent. And using the word consistent here is that doesn't matter, whether a customer is ordering or picking something into the cart on the web, or it's basically walking into the physical store, or it's calling the call center service. So overall, whatever the customer is doing across any of the device it's using, the other channels, what it's used in terms of moving from one channel to another, that experience should remain consistent. So let's take an example of it. A customer has chosen a website, and on the website it is adding an item to the cart. And the customer decides that, okay, let me just walk into the store as I'm just passing through the store and collect the item. If suppose a customer, as it walks in the store, go to the teller and sees and the store associate is not able to find the item in the cart, that's a broken experience. So this is pretty much described in a very simple manner that here we used two channels. One was that the customer just basically using a web interface of a shopping cart, and then putting an item into the cart, and then walking into the store, and the store has no idea what has happened on the web channel. So this is a very critical aspect. Like sometimes, we must have also seen as a business process involved that, customer, they are doing the shopping, they are doing every search, and then they're shopping on the web, then they would like to walk into the store to pick up the item. So it is all in terms of like what's being done on any channel, and then the other channel has the knowledge that what is going across from the customer experience perspective. So this is very, very critical that, whether we are providing that value to the customer, or we are asking the customer to do the redundant things like, okay, I'm not able to find your item in the cart, so what you were looking for. So we lose the ability to cross-sell, we lose the ability to upsell, because if suppose by the time the store associate would have seen that this item is already in the cart, by the time the customer walk into the store, it would have been so great experience for the customer that the associate says, okay, sir, and ma'am, I saw this item you have put in the cart, and we have this available, would you like this to right away pick it from the store, or would you like us to ship it, to your destination wherever you want us to deliver? So this is a very critical aspect, how we see these things. So what has happened is that what are the different challenges and why it has become so critical about these omni-channel today. This is the highest priority project, anyone who is an e-retailer and having a presence in terms of whether retail or CPG or manufacturing, any kind of industry, for them, it is becoming very critical that they are looking for giving the customer an experience which is not a broken experience, as I just gave you a very simple example in the last slide. So what has happened is as the proliferation of the channels are increasing, there are definitely more than one channel today where the customer is connecting with the e-retailer. And also with that, what is happening is that information is all everywhere. So like customer is looking for some kind of ratings about a product on the Facebook, customer is going and looking at the bazaar-wise, customer is looking and calling the friends, and the friends are putting that these are something they experienced and something is good or bad, they like it, dislike it. And so it's all around that information is. So to really for a business to really assess that what a customer is looking for, it has to come across that a unifying strategy where they can actually follow and they can actually see and they can really predict, if not 100%, at least they should know that this is my customer is and what the customer choices are, so that I can fulfill customers all the choices with as much expectation of the customer as possible. So let's move on. So how we can actually handle this part? So there are 4 critical dimensions to implement or to envision an omni-channel. So one part of the dimension is the knowledge, and the knowledge is all around that what a customer is all about, and what a customer wants, and how I can provide a value to the customer, and out of that value, what value I can drive out of that customer experience. So knowledge is all about that. So I will talk each and every dimension into detail as we move forward. Then comes the business processes. So we have to, we have seen in our earlier webinars also. So from product conceptualization to product realization, all the way to the customer service, comes supplier network, shopping experience, payments, and all those different silos of the business processes to fulfill a business value chain. What happens is that we have to ensure that our customer's value is provided in every business process unit of function. And I will show you that how we can, what are the different sub-processes within that, which are very critical as we start looking into the omni-channel experience for the user for us. The third one is the service. So service is like, your customer service, your service is like how the order management, should be happening, how a customer can provision itself, the order as well as its profile, as well as the choices, as well as its preferences, anything what the customer wants. Also along with that, as I have seen in number of situations where out of order, out of stock situation is so difficult to handle for any e-retailer, because the reason being the supply chain management, if at the back is not as efficient in driving and providing in services that, okay, a customer is looking for item A, and when it goes there, I show out of the stock and the stock is not available. So how at the back end everything should be integrated, because that eventually a timely information to the customer, so that customer, whether looking for approaching Christmas or any birthday or anything which are like very important event, how that customer view that, and how a retailer can ensure that, at the time when the customer wants it, that information is available at the at customer's edge. Technology is where any of these dimensions, core dimensions, from knowledge perspective, from business processes implementation perspective, from the service perspective, technology plays a core and critical part of it. So that's where we are going to talk about SAP Hybris, that, how the Hybris, it sees the sub-processes, sub-dimension into these other three main dimensions, and how it fulfills that dream, and some of the things it can help to quickly ramp up this effort and make the customer your customer engaging experience for a value-driven across any of the business processes. So shown two in yellow, like strategy and predictive analysis and organization governance, they play a very big role also. Mostly they are across the organization. So when we talk about a omni-channel framework, we are going to talk about the four-dimension knowledge, business experience, a business process, service, and technology. So I am not going to talk about these two, but as such, if you are going for any omni-channel implementation, so this framework ensures that your business strategy, your business goals, your capabilities, they should also be taken into consideration with the predictive analysis, that what I'm going to get out of this effort. So that is very, very important, that this is the way I look at it. And then organization governance is also another critical part of the organization, that as you evolve, there are many new roles which are going to be introduced. There are many new functions which will be introduced. There may be a lot of different things, which you have to see from the business and the technology perspective coming into the governance part of the organization. So this is what I just said. Know the customer, cater your business processes according to that, provide exceptional service, and do the technology enablement. So what is knowledge? So this happens through bringing in all the different analytics. These are customer analytics, marketing analytics, business, and the web analytics. And why these four sub-dimensions are the five, within this knowledge is important, because everything provides a different value from where a business can envision that this is my customer, this is the way the customer value a particular merchandise which I'm trying to sell, and this is the way the customer wants this item so that to be described. This is the way they want to know about this item, because as we go across from industry to industry, it becomes very, very difficult. So I can cite you some example about when you handle any pharmaceutical industry. Suppose I am ordering anything online, and there is a order which medicines come home every month. So what very important for the customer is, like, when they go, they can actually know as much as possible about that medicine side effect, what are the other generalized medicines available, which are more, which give more value for the money. So from that aspect, customer experience drives very different value, because it's more like knowledge, it's more like sharing, it's more like a community, where they would like that experience to happen, that everybody can share their views about, the consumption of their medicine. The same way when we are going for any automobile, they have a different experience. The same way is like, when we get into anything in terms of, getting into a store versus buying on the channel for any manufacturing or any consumer products, they go different. Same is the difference from telco industry and financial. So every experience is different. But what we need to do is that when we talk about the customer, these four things, from where it is not attached to any other industry. These are pretty transparent. They have their own meaning. So overall, customer analytics, marketing, business, and web analytics are the main things, which need to be taken care of, as if we want to know about that, what the customer perspective is. Business processes has to tailor around, as we are talking about that, what the whole commerce business processes from, that I will talk about a little bit on the later side, all around the customer entity, all about product, all about price, all about inventory, all about order. Critical things, because these is five things, where a customer, my product, price, inventory, order, if I can have really my systems enable the synchronization where I can actually provide that, where my item is, in which warehouse, and how much time it's going to take that item to be delivered to the customer, there is a lot of value. If I can tell a customer when the customer is putting that item on the cart, that it will take you 3 business days or 1 business day, I can deliver you in 1 hour, there is a tremendous value for the customer, and that can only happen if my front end, all order management, from order taking to order management to supply chain management to all the warehouses, they are in sync to tell me that this is the inventory status of my items within all the stores and all the warehouses within a particular demographic. So getting into the business processes, so we have to see across all the business processes, from product development to supplier network to marketing efforts, from sales enablement to a settlement of any of the payments, all the payment processing, how it's going to be done, and then order and fulfillment into the returns and exchanges and the customer service and compliance. So when we start looking into an omni-channel initiative and start looking into that within our capability across these business processes, do we see that when I do the product prototyping, product management, or product variant, or I am conceptualizing a product, do I have enough analytics that what my customer is looking for? Do I have enough analytics from the marketing standpoint of it, that this demography where I am actually going to sell my product, is there enough demand for that? Do I have enough information about a particular price a competitiveness within that demography. So from the business analytics perspective, that I can position myself strongly, and then there is a value for the customer. Do I know that the customer would like to see, videos of this particular product, or the customer would like to see different pictures of this product, whether, so all those things are very critical in analysis. So each and every business process within this business value chain is very critical. So we have to ensure that we go through each and every functional unit within this business processes and find out that what is my current state of that capability is, and what it is going to take me to really create a value-driven experience for the customer for the future state, where the customer consideration, customer KPIs are taken into consideration to drive that future goal, a future state, so that I can identify that what the gaps are, and then I can, implement those into, into my roadmap. So that's why this is very critical. So this slide gives you a perspective across business processes, and then there are shared capabilities, which give us that, okay, we want to brand ourselves, we want to have our shared services in place, we have a one common service, where we want to know that, okay, this product, what is the inventory of this product across this demography, so that should be available as a shared service, so that any channel, if I am developing a native app on my iOS versus an Android, versus I'm creating a unique experience which is a web-driven over my web channels, so I can just actually call this service and have every channel to consume that service to let a customer know that, okay, you are walking by this particular store, the item which you're looking at, this item is available. And actually, I'm also giving some promotion this item, you should just walk in the next 1 hour. So there is a lot of things come into picture, how to run campaigns, how to promote a product, if we know through a customer's demography and the customer, today, these devices they give us, through the GPS and through all the things like, when the customer is passing by close by and the customer wants to see is there anything enticing, in this store if I can walk in, So there are a lot of scenarios which can be evolved when we start looking deep down into these business processes and find out that what is the value we can provide to the customer. And at the same time, once the customer gets valued, its eventual effect is going to be that there is a sale, that is the value for us, a driver, which we drive value out of that. So when we talk about business processes, when we talk about that how we have to channelize our business across those business processes, we have to also ensure that the customer part of where the customer is interacting with us across those business process interactions, what are the different things which the customer bring on the table which are very critical to us. So this domain is very exhaustive, from the perspective of where it tells about that what are the different content delivery mechanism is, what is the customer management part is, where the customer is actually registering itself at the same time. Customer, when registering, is letting us know that what the customer preferences would be. It is, take an example, if suppose a customer registered to your website and says that, I should only be notified of your promotions probably once a week rather than, you bombard me every day, that is a very critical information to grasp, because I am now valuing a customer's preference and a choice, that the customer says, okay, only send me this on every Friday, so that my now systems, they know that, okay, this is the way it wants. Only send it to me through the email, okay, and do not ever call me. So these are some of the things, why this is important is that To really service a customer, I have to find it out that how that customer wants me to service, so that rather than bogged down by so many emails and promotions which come across, and a customer hardly look at that. So from content management perspective, there are now, this is a lot of them are on the website, where how to create your web templates, how to manage the content, how to do the site management, workflow, branding, publishing, your search engine optimization, your syndication, archiving, then social integration, then how to manage those digital assets, and how to then see that campaign management database and direct marketing database into this. So this whole thing is an aspect of when we are looking into a omni-channel business processes, shared capabilities, within, and also the content part, even though it seems, less less intuitive in terms of that whether it's a part of the business process. So I have kept it aside. That's the reason. But this is so critical, if we really want to bring these two things together. So that's why this is very important to keep this. So from service, we are talking about a customer service. We are talking about supply chain management. We are talking about order management, and we are talking about a self-service provisioning, where a customer can set its own preferences and its own rules. That is the self-service. So that is critical for a omni-channel experience. Now let's move on to and see that we have touched that customer knowledge to the business processes to the service, and see that from the technology and Hybris perspective, what is within the scope of Hybris which we should poke into Hybris and see how we can leverage already available things, and then some of the things which may not be available, but they are critical from a omni-channel experience. So looking into this part, this is now become evident that bringing in that having a SAP Hybris, so it basically suffices around 50% of our game plan. So for a comprehensive omni-channel, there are Hey, Sean, 1 second. There is someone at the windows, 1 second. That guy, some workers are creating some noise. Hey, let me just hang on for a minute.
Yeah. Sorry about it. We are hoping to be back soon. Just bear with us.
Sorry about that. I'm back. There is some window cleaning is happening, and those guys are just making too much noise. Sorry about that. So as I was talking about that, when we look at the comprehensive picture of the omni-channel, so all the green things are supported by Hybris, and anything yellow is where is a semi-support, and something which is blue is actually we have to see separately, and there are and depend on our comprehensive strategy and some other tools and technologies. So let's show that this is a meta model and execution topology, where we see every part of this technology enablement, that we look into a strategy goal, we find the capability, we find the state of that, and we break it into this, whether it's this capability is a strategic capability, or it's a business capability, or a technology. We create a matrix out of this is all the KPIs, and then we measure that against that particular state and find it out the future state and the current state, and find the gap to create a roadmap for us. So this is very helpful, when you start looking into that, okay, I have seen the business process, I have seen that these are the 4 dimensions I have to check. I have to, and find it out that what is where I stand, maybe like, I out of 1 to 5, I am close to 5, so my future state, my current state is at that. Are there a lot of gaps which I need to fill? So this helps you a lot in establishing that how should I find those gaps within the capability to go from there. Okay, so what we have learned so far, that there are 4 integral constituents of this domain, with knowledge, business processes, service technology. We have to look into identify all the gaps of each constituent of the omni-channel framework using metadata domain model that we saw in the last slide. And then we have to create a roadmap using the capability map. So this will give us a complete picture of that, where I stand, and what are the things which are important, and where I'm going to leverage Hybris to the full extent to, having my 50 or 60% of that, and then bringing all the peripheral technologies and the systems and the applications to have the complete vision, to implement that part. Okay, so that was our section 1 on Omni channel. And now we will move on to what is our WCMS is, and how does it help, and how does it actually play a role in creating an experience which is across all the channels, which can be very consistent, and how those capabilities can be delivered to the customer. So if we look at into a Hybris module across our business processes, a Hybris module provide our extension. It actually fills the gap. It basically provides the functionality of a particular business function within the business process. So as I have shown it here. So when we bring all of these modules together, we can call it that, okay, this is my accelerator is, and that's the way we do it. So we have to see what is WCMS is. So WCMS is actually the same way is a one extension, and within that extension, actually there are a number of other projects are. Just take an example. CMS2 is all where all the content management part of its own data model is captured. Then there is a CMS2 lib, where it has all the functionality for like how to write tags, and the front end side, and how some of the segments need to be created, how those templating need to be rendered. So that is part of that. And then when we look into that, what is the part within that driver where the accelerators are available to us, like as when we look into store accelerator front end. So that gives you all the capability. Accelerator CMS, it has all the bundled capabilities, so that those things can be derived from the perspective of creating CMS components. So those things are very critical, which I will walk you through as we move forward on this one. So let's take a look into our Hybris architecture. So access points, presentation tier, logic, business logic tier, then the persistence tier, and the repository tier. So under this, we have a client, where the access happens. Then we have the presentation tier. Then we have our logic as the business logic tier. We have persistence tier, and then we have repositories, means anything which is in terms of our backend systems, application, or data stores. So in a nutshell, when we start looking into Hybris and start what is WCMS is, what its role is, this picture provides some of the technologies which being used and the modules, irrespective whether it's WCMS module or any other module, they at the core level use some of these technologies being presented here. So when we look into client, we know that the client can be a browser client, or it's going to be a mobile client, or a fat B2B client, or it can be a call center store application, or for administration, or a developer coming out of its own user interfaces. Presentation access is all about whether if we are going through web channel, so it is all happening through a Spring MVC support. If it is happening through a B2B or any a mobile SDK, iOS versus an Android, so there the front-end application interfaces, they are make RESTful calls to the presentation and the access layer, and those RESTful calls are eventually calling those logic services to render the response of what the request is meant to be. Cockpit is their framework where now a lot of CMS cockpits, where you can templatize your website. At the same time, there is a product cockpit where you can actually see all the information and the data from the perspective of a catalog. You can see a catalog, you can see a product, you can see all the pictures, you can drag and drop, and you can actually update your catalog information into that. The same thing, you used to happen in HMC, which is Hybris Management Console. That was not very intuitive or not very user-friendly. So these cockpits, they are being created out of Zaku's, ZK framework. And this ZK framework, if you want to learn a little bit more about that, you can always do Google on ZK framework and go to the site and see what it is. But primarily, it is very similar to the way Google WebKit was. So they have something in the client and the server. They actually communicate back and forth to make the experience happen. So I will not go any much detail into that, but we will touch it in our separate webinars, which I'm trying to focus on, like what cockpits are and how to create those custom cockpits. So when we start looking into that, it is critical that we see today's focus, which is all about presentation and the access layer, is that how this actually translates from the perspective of a web content management, and how we see that this is going to suffice all the interfaces, whether it is Spring or it is mobile. So here I'm not wrapping mobile SDK. So this is your web-based experience within the mobile. And then your ZK framework, which I just mentioned, that all the cockpits, they're being designed and developed using this framework. So web content management, when we see a WCMS capability of this module, it gives you all the necessary components which actually can be rendered using the Spring MVC, can be rendered through any web-enabled mobile, or they can be also used within the cockpit framework. And when we look into from pure native experience on any of the mobile devices, take an example of iOS or Android, there is you cannot rely on web content management systems because those are all native. So all the user interfaces are created within the context of those native apps, so iOS as well as Android. So now coming back to when we say web content management system, so it is all about web-enabled devices, anyone who is using browser with HTTP. This composition of WCMS module provides all the necessary elements to provide you that experience. So this slide we saw earlier when I was talking about the business processes along with the content. And these stars within some of the functionality which is supported by WCMS, that's the intent of that. So wherever you see these stars, this is the technology, this is the functionality supported by WCMS, and rest of the other things there are some advanced personalization being introduced. So there are some other factors being brought in, and which may support some of the other things. But as of now, which is version I'm using 5.4, some of these things are there as part of the package. So let's move on. So when we talk about content, when we talk about creating user experience, so what is critical for us? Critical is the composition, critical is authoring, critical is publishing, and then critical is rendering. So composition is all that, how do I see that, this particular experience need to be created, and what are the elements to create that experience. So take an example of, when we see out of the box out-of-the-box module of whether it is a power tools or it is apparel, there are 4 or 5 out-of-the-box implementation, when we configure and see that what they are. So they have constituted that this is the way they envision the experience, that, when you add any items to the cart, so the cart, you can click on the cart and basically a pop-up will show up. So this is all about how that experience is composed of. So all the things which are technically needed, they are the composition. So CMS2 and CMS2 lib, these two projects within WCMS module geared to provide to fulfill the composition role of your content management vision. So moving forward, let's see that what is inside these the construct of this composition is. So in this triangle is beautifully annotate what we see when we start translating that, whether we are creating a site. So a site has number of pages. So like site pages and templates, and those pages and templates, they have content slots. Where we see there is a header, there is a footer, there is a navigation, there is on the left-hand side, and then in the middle, we have all the central content and all that. And within that content slot, we have different components. So just like when we see the header, we see that there are different components, just like, one can be, contact us or about our company, another can be our logo, another can be a search window where we provide search window along with the search button. We also provide some navigation. Okay, these are some of the things you can do on the site, and then so these are all the components. So the idea is that. So that's why. So a website has a CMS site. It belongs to a store and a catalog. Page has only one template within WCMS. So if you have had an opportunity to go into HCM, which is Hybris Management Console, and within WCMS, if you see that everything starts from website, which is nothing but a CMS site is. So you associate that site to a URL, and then from there, that site will have page, and the page will have page template, which is a one-to-one relationship in the composition the way it has been designed. Okay, so this one gives you what I just described in a non-picture format. So looking into those pages, slots, and components, what I was describing, this is the way I look at it. So when you look into a store, this is our out-of-the-box fashion store. So template is that I see a header here, I see a sidebar, I see my main content section. So the template provides that, okay, this will have only 3 different sections with the templates. And when I look into that, okay, within that there are 3 slots are that, there is a header slot, there is a sidebar, there is a middle. And within that slot, there are components. So this gave a very good idea that, when we start looking into that, how the experience and how we can leverage WCMS component and how we can actually create our own custom components, how we start looking into this part of it. So moving forward, this is the data model, which is from the composition standpoint of view. And when you start looking into that, the way I showed you that triangle, that tree structure, we start from site, then we know that site composed of pages and templates, and then the pages, they actually have content slots, and each content slot can have zero or more than zero components. So everything, from the perspective of pages and the components and page template, everything comes out of a CMS item, which is an implementation within Hybris, and it can be extended using CMS too. So all of these data types, which are the item types for Hybris, they are being created as creating that whenever I want to create a page, so I will extend my abstract page. If I want to create my component, just like take an example out of this picture, it's a mini cart component. So there is an arrow here. So mini cart R. Okay. So mini cart component or navigation bar components. So they are being extended a simple CMS component, and the simple CMS component is a part of abstract CMS component, extends that, then eventually to CMS. So this is a important part when technically you start to understand that what internally from the composition standpoint of view is supported, and how does I can understand it, and then later on can create my own custom component, because eventually when you're going to create your own component, you are going to create a component, then you will extend to simple CMS component. That would be your type. Then you will create a controller. So the controller will have a view. That view will map to a page, which will be a page which will go to and extend to your abstract page. So eventually, this is a like the lowest level of implementation within Hybris, which tells you that this is the way it works, and this is the way I can actually leverage it to create whatever I'm trying to, create across all of my devices, whatever has a web interface. So this is from the authoring, workflow, and publishing perspective. So any extension or any of your custom component or anything which is out of the box, when you start your Hybris, Hybris data has all of those content data which are imported using a Hybris impact file. So as you all aware of that, this is the way it does import and export of that. So all the data, like if we today see that from where these category page, product page, for all of those configured my applications, accelerators in terms of power tools and fashion store, and they are coming. So they are being imported out of those impacts content classes, content data files. So these are all go through the, you can go to the Hybris management console. You can see that how the template is, how the page actually corresponds to a page template, how the page template corresponds to a page, which actually, if you see my cursor here, so this is the pages, the layout page at the end of it. And then the cockpit gives you that how you can actually place those components on the page. So coming back here, again, it's very important that we understand how the rendering is going to happen, which is the part which we have understood the composition, what happens there. We have understood that how the authoring is going to happen. Then the authoring has all the workflow inbuilt into that. I can have this authoring, connect to any version of a catalog so that my production is not impacted at all during my authoring until the time it gets approved. And once I know that this is the way this component should like, and it gets integrated well, I have passed on all the system integration testing. All my system testing has been completed. I am going to synchronize that version of my staging a staging catalog with my product catalog. And so when I do it, all the things which are part of my staging, they get replicated into my production. So the product is in sync with my staging area now. Okay, so going back, so what does it mean? So now when you start to putting together some rendering, let's basically also understand that, when I look into my expanded view of my application, how those pages, those fragments, those CMS, they are corresponding. So all the components within your views under the CMS folder, they are all the components. So whenever you're writing it, you'll see, if suppose I showed you a few components there, like minicart components. If you want to see the minicart component.jsp, you are going to get into the CMS, and there you're going to find it that. So you can modify it and see that how it's going to show some of them. Or you can actually better extend your own thing rather than modifying that, because that's the way, anything you go and upgrade to the latest version, your things will not be overridden. So this is very critical. So all the fragments, there is an Ajax here. So the fragments part is just like when you see the pop-up of your cart, that pop-up is part of fragments, because the Ajax call, where from the jQuery, a call is sent and the response is rendered, nothing but to show that pop-up rather than refreshing the whole page. So that's the way. So this part is very critical. Once you start getting into that, I understand this rendering now, I want to create my own custom component to have this experience. So from rendering, now this is the way it is happening. And so we have device, filter, spring, controller, view, and then it goes. I have already talked about that, and move forward. So we have a template, we have an engine, we have a script. This is what our WCMS is, all of these three things. Move forward, we have left with only few minutes, so I will just speed up a little bit. So building block template is cockpit, JSP tags. Our engine is, those design time and runtime. What is in script? What is in design time and runtime? It gives you a very good picture when you start facing that. This is the way we look at it. Okay, so how can I use it? Again, back to this. We know this. This is what it is. We know this is what it is. And this is important. So we have to create a theme. We have to create a component specification. We have to develop the controller. We have to develop the impacts. And we have to apply the theme. And then we have to do CMS cockpit configuration. These are the steps. Steps 1, extend your type to CMS component, have a controller, then you define your view, and then configure a page, register your component, and grant all the access, build it. And we are going to actually post a few custom components along with source files with documentation, to make it much easier rather than just talking about it. So Sean is going to send emails to all of you so that you can download it, or the source and everything would be there. And that way, it will be much easier to see how this whole thing is working. So this is the development view anyway, not get into detail. You have seen the slides. This will be available on the blog. Okay. Sorry for, there were few interruptions. Really, apologize for that. And but we still have 1 minute. If there is any question, Sean, either I can take it or feel free to email me if there is anything I can help you out. And with that, this ends our today's webinar. Sean, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ravi. All the audience, we request you to type your questions on the questions tab, and we'll try to cover as many as possible in the limited time we have, or else, we'll take them on a case-to-case basis. We'll address them individually. Thank you. We'll just wait for a minute. Ravi, can you address some of the main issues while implementing an omni-channel solution?
Main issues, as I said, from the value perspective, we have to see from the customer side of it, what a customer is looking for. And then on the other end of it, we have to see that our supply chain effectiveness. And these are the two very critical part of bringing an experience which is value driven for them.
Sure. Can a customer integrate a WCMS component into a mobile app?
If a mobile app is web-based, like browser, then it can be used. But if you want to create your native experience on any of the device, iOS and this, at that time, you are totally relying on your iOS and Android user interface.
Sure. We have a few more, but we'll take them individually, as I said earlier. Thanks, Ravi, for the informative webinar. It was indeed a great experience. I hope the same with the customers as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining in, and we look forward to seeing you in our future webinars as well. Thank you, one and all.